Retro Hangover is supported via Patreon by listeners like you. We would especially like to thank patrons Lyle McCarnes, Ashton Ruby, Randall Quiggle, Tony G, Katie Quigg, Paul Ramallo, Raging Demon, Masked Llama, Ozzy Garcia, Keith Gasper, and Dischimera. Your continued engagement and generous donations are deeply appreciated.
Open your ears and crack some beers. You are listening to the 100th episode of Retro Hangover.
Retro and classic gamers, welcome to the podcast where we are answering amnesia at altitudes already asked. This is the 100th episode of Retro Hangover. I am your co-host, Chris Copleen, and I am joined, as always, by your host, Shane. Already uncomfortable, Dick Dragon Koski.
Why am I uncomfortable? Are we expecting some like very deep personal questions on this episode? Is that what it is? Or is it mostly just Adam? I'm just going to go ahead and call him out immediately.
It's mostly just him.
Okay. No, that's fair.
We will get to those because this episode, if you've actually hung out to the end of our previous two episodes, you'll know that we have are doing an Ask Me Anything for this.
That's right.
I don't know how many people actually stayed till the end of our episodes, but we did get some questions. So that is good. They all came from the Discord. So shout out to our Discord. Thank you for providing the questions for this episode. We're going to have some real fun ones, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. No, I actually, in all honesty, we got more questions than I thought we were going to get. So thank you to everybody that submitted your questions. We very much appreciate it. I mean, honestly, if it weren't for all of you, well, from a purely functional standpoint, we wouldn't be doing this episode because we wouldn't have any fucking questions. But just in a more general sense, we would not even be here talking about our 100th episode if it weren't for all of your support. That's crazy, And I know, without going too far down into the weeds on that or anything, that it's really easy to get jaded, right? And kind of like numb to content producers when they say shit like, we can't do this without you. And you're the listeners and the viewers. Oh my God, it's all about you or whatever. Because you hear that all the time. But for what it's worth, we do genuinely mean that. I don't think either one of us thought we were going to be doing this for this long and have as many fantastic listeners and, dare I say, fans as we do. So thank you.
Yeah, doing this for 100 episodes, this being the 100th, it's very surreal.
It is.
It's nuts. Like Shane said, I don't think we would have made it here to 100, starting this all the way back. Like it was just kind of something we did for fun. And I'm going to sit here and I'm not going to say we wouldn't be doing this without you, because we might be. But I will say this, you listeners out there that are listening to the show and are in our community and everything like that, you make it a hell of a lot more fun than when we had no idea whether or not anyone was listening to the show. So
yes,
thank you for listening to this dumb little show of ours. We really do appreciate it. I think we should talk about what we're playing, even though it's going to be a little bit confusing, I'll say why. Well, I'll just put it out there. We recorded episode 101 before we recorded this episode.
Yes.
So just to know that before we kind of go into the games we've been playing, it might be a little confusing. I'll try to keep it basic. But how about you, Shane? What have you been getting into?
I feel like the answer to that question hasn't really changed all that much. It
won't change next time.
Yeah, right. Yes. What I'm saying now will be the same as the episode that's definitely in the future that we haven't already recorded. Yeah, it's a lot of Diablo 2. I'm not even gonna lie about that.
Shocker.
With the release of Resurrected, that's pretty much all I've been playing, and I'm okay with that. I'm sure that no one is going to be surprised by this, but it's something that will definitely come up again in this episode as when we start getting into the questions. But suffice to say, Diablo 2 getting an HD remaster basically means that I am now guaranteed to play that game probably forever. So that's pretty much been me. And trying to play Drakengard and realizing that apparently it's not a good game. So that was kind of disappointing. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I think I told you it wasn't good before you played it.
I don't think you did. Actually, I was under the impression that it was going to be some amazing experience having just finished Nier, and got to be honest, a little underwhelmed to say the least. But yeah, I mean, hey, if for nothing else, right, that means that now I can finally get around to popping in Skies of Arcadia, and then I can maybe get that back to you someday. So
yeah, that one I actually do want back.
Yeah, I figured, yeah.
Yeah. But speaking of Skies of Arcadia and Diablo 2, those are two games that are in our King of Games 2000 episodes that we did with the Region Free Gamers podcast. And those at the current moment are exclusively on Patreon to everyone that is a Patreon subscriber. And that goes whether or not you're a subscriber of us or of the Region Free Gamers. So even at the lowest tier, $1 a month gets you in to listen to these episodes early. You'll get the entirety of the series before they go out to everybody else. So if you're interested in that, go ahead, swing by ours or the Region Free Gamers Patreon and take a look and see if that's something that you're interested in.
Absolutely.
As far as what I'm playing, it's not a game that was released in the year 2000. It is Final Fantasy 1 Pixel Remastered. It was released in 2021. So next week I'll be talking about Final Fantasy 2. And I did get done with that, but just pretend I didn't next week and I'll get done with that. No, not next week, but the week after that. And well, it is next week. Well, shit, I'm just confusing everything. I'm fantastic. But right now,
this is what happens when we release things outside of our normal schedule. We don't know what's going on.
You keep trying to tell me this, and I just won't listen. So Final Fantasy 1 is what I'm playing right now. These Pix remasters are really weird. Like the soundtrack is so good, but it just seems like the difficulty balance is all out of whack. So like Final Fantasy 1, I'm starting it up. And all the magic system, which was changed for the PSP and GBA remakes, where they, gave you magic points as opposed to magic slots. Mm-hmm. Well, now they went back to magic slots. So I don't like that.
That's not cool.
Yeah, but at the same time, you can buy ethers for 150 gold a piece, and ethers will give a additional charge to each level of your spell slot. So if you buy 99 ethers, essentially you have 99 spell castings.
Great.
It's I don't know, the difficulty balance is all out of whack. Some things are just, they feel harder and some things feel way easier. But the music is good. Graphically it looks fine. I can't complain with the way it controls because you can move diagonally, which I actually really like, which I know sounds like a really small feature, but it's super cool. And you can dash, but you've been able to do that forever. But I don't know. It's good, but I don't know if I like it. I would say early review for both Final Fantasy 1 and 2. Play Dawn of Souls for the GBA. I think that's the better game, but I know a lot of people don't have access to that, at least legally. So, I mean, it is the best version that you can currently purchase, I guess. It's not bad, but it is frustrating.
I guess it makes you wonder if they did proper balance testing when they make these changes, because I mean, things like that, sounds like there's a very precarious sort of balance with the difficulty. And if you go and just make what seems like a minor tweak like that of just well, this magic slot thing sucks, so let's just let them buy ethers or whatever. I feel like there are deeper ramifications to those kinds of gameplay changes that maybe weren't fully considered.
But there's also the way I think about it. Actually, there's another thing that I started thinking about when I started saying that. But another thing I think about is I'm conditioned for when these games were balls hard.
Right.
So when I play these games, I go in with the expectation I have to grind or I have to perform certain actions that may not be necessary in modern iterations because they have reduced the difficulty so much.
Sure.
So like with Final Fantasy 1, I find myself grinding for gold a lot and trying to get the best equipment in every single town I go to, which is something you still, probably should do. But grinding for gold just takes forever. And then I went to a cave, the Marsh Cave, which is one of the earlier caves in the dungeon in the Elf Kingdom. And I really didn't have any issues with it, which I typically do. And was it because I was overleveled? I don't know, because when I go to the towns, I still can't afford all the best equipment. So I don't know if it's a pacing thing, an experience thing. It's a mystery to me. But then with like Final Fantasy 2, grinding in that game is of course a lot different. It's more like the Saga series where you gain hit points and magic points and what is it, stats based off your actions in battle. And I'm like OP all the time in that game, except my skill levels won't level up because I'm so farther advanced than the enemies I'm fighting that sword levels won't go up and spell levels won't go up because I'm already too powerful. And so it's a really weird balancing thing in that game that I'm just completely not used to. I think it's because I'm engineered to treat the game like it's going to murder me.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
So I don't know. I still think it's worth the purchase just for the soundtrack alone. I'm very curious to see how Final Fantasy IV is going to be. But with the lower difficulty, I'm quite anxious to play 3. And I'll say this again next week. Play fucking Final Fantasy 2. Just do it. Just fucking do it. I'll say it again. You'll hear it again.
Well, I suppose we're at the point now where, were this just a run-of-the-mill episode, we'd start talking about the brief history, but we're not doing that today. So instead, as the title might imply, we are doing the Reddit thing. At least I think it started with Reddit. Maybe it was Dig. I don't know. But anyway, the AMA, the Ask Me Anything, or in our case, the Ask Us Anything. And we have a full list of questions here that we are just going to kind of go through and kind of, I guess, go back and forth and just kind of discuss our answers. And as we said, all of these were submitted by, listeners like you. So take that for what you will. I don't know, Chris, would you like to start us off?
All right. So our first question, our very, very first question was an interesting one. Was not one I was expecting. And it comes from do I want to call him the father or the creator of the Dick Dragon? He has like a KJ Inafune relationship with Dick Dragon.
The progenitor.
he made Gorp come to life. It is in our Discord server, Crab Cake, and he has asked us if we consider a hot dog to be a taco or a sandwich. Shane, what do you say?
The hard-hitting questions.
Really hard.
Yeah. All right. So hot dog, taco, or sandwich. So for me, all right. What defines a sandwich to me personally, right, is the two like completely separate pieces of bread or bread-like material. So once you sort of have like one contiguous meat holster, to me, that becomes closer to a taco. Now, there's some fine nuance in this question, because if the bun splits for whatever reason, you're just manhandling your hot dog, take that however you will. Or if it gets soggy from just too many condiments in there, then it becomes a sandwich. So in a way, I would almost say both, depending on, it's like Schrodinger's hot dog. It could be a taco or a sandwich. It just depends.
With conversations like hot dogs and tacos, you don't got to be a pussy. Just answer it. I'm not going to punt it. I'm not punting.
Okay.
Because I mean, I like putting hot dogs in tacos.
Sure, yeah.
But no. Is a hoagie a sandwich?
Yes.
I would say yes. And you have one continuous piece of bread in that.
Yeah.
So I would say that the hot dog is a sandwich.
That is a good point.
Yeah. It's just like a sub. It's just with a big long meat tube instead of meat shavings.
Well, then is a sub a form of hot dog then?
No, a hot dog is the kind of sandwich it is.
Ah, okay.
It's like a peanut butter and jelly. You don't always say peanut butter and jelly sandwich. You just say peanut butter and jelly.
Well, now we have
This
to
is the contents of the
but
sandwich.
now we have to further complicate things by bringing in pita bread. Like what is a pita pocket then?
When you go to a Mediterranean restaurant and they sell shawarma,
Yes.
they are or gyros, which are in pita bread. They call them sandwiches.
Mm. Okay.
And it's gyros. It's not gyros, you uncultured swine.
There have been a couple of times where I've gone into like a Mediterranean restaurant or something, and I've heard someone just straight up order a gyro, and just the look on the person's face who's taking the order, just priceless. They're just like, you know what? It's not even worth my time.
And then you say euro, and some people are like euros, like the currency. I'm just like, I hate you.
I hate it here. I don't want to live on this planet anymore.
But crab cake, I hope that answers your question.
Yes. All right. So I guess the next one is actually for me. So that'll be interesting. I'm going to read my own question. So I'll be that guy. But the question comes in from Randall, aka Orden. And he asks, what moment made you realize you loved Dark Souls? Was it a particular mechanic or a boss fight or something else? And so this is actually a really great question because I think, as many of you know, I was initially just completely repulsed by the idea of Dark Souls, just in general, largely due to its like notoriety of being like so hard and the whole like get good community. So that kind of kept me away from it. But once I finally gave it a shot, truth be told, it took me a while to kind of really get a feel for it. I remember my first character made it all the way to Quelaag, and then I never progressed past that point. And then my second go around, I think, was where it really sort of sunk in for me and everything just kind of clicked. I don't think it's the boss fights or like any one thing in particular that makes it for me. It's kind of the whole package deal. The very like methodical approach to combat, the level of difficulty that is legitimately fair. I think that's a big thing to note. And it's actually one of the detractors for Dark Souls 2, because there was some real lack of decent design in that particular entry, where you end up dying because of some like fucked up cheap shots or something, which was completely antithetical to the entire design philosophy of Dark Souls in the first place. But that's an entire other discussion. And then honestly, the atmosphere and just like the world building that they did in that game. I mean, I just adore dark fantasy settings like that, and Dark Souls really nails it. The sort of method of experiential storytelling is very well implemented. It's not a lot of exposition like some other RPGs where you have to sit through hours of dialogue or, cutscenes or whatever. It's more told through, like the items that you find and like the little quips of descriptions that they have, or things that you actually see in the game world that kind of fill in things, or make you wonder, and you kind of fill the rest of it in yourself with your imagination. And I think that's a big thing. And I know a lot of people have gone over that in exhaustive detail, but it's for a good reason. So that's my semi short answer, because I could probably keep going about it. But it's really just a package deal, man. I mean, that's part of why I couldn't get into something like Sekiro, because it's missing one of those like essential pieces for me, which is the combat. I don't like the twitchy dodge combat and like the timed parrying and stuff that Sekiro kind of relies on. It's part of the reason that I didn't actually finish Bloodborne either, because it was already starting to head in that direction. So for what it's worth, that's also why I like Hellpoint, because it is much, much more like OG Dark Souls in how it approaches combat, which I really appreciate.
Cool.
All right, so moving on to the next one, another one from Randall. We've got a few from him. He was coming up with a handful of good questions. So he asks, at what moment did you and Shane, so that would be directed towards Chris, so the two of us, when did we decide to start a podcast?
And you can fill in the blanks here if I'm off, because, giant gaping holes in my brain from all the alcohol I've consumed over the past couple of years. I'm doing, I guess that's terrible. It sounded really bad. Speaking of alcohol, like this started at a bar. I think that is one of the biggest reasons it's called Retro Hangover, is the conversations we would have while we were buzzing.
Yeah.
Over at, it's a restaurant in Orange Park. It's still up. It's called Brewer's Pizza. They have a microbrew in there called Pinglehead, and they have delicious beer. It's
and delicious
not the
pizza.
place. Oh yeah, delicious pizza too. It hasn't been the same quite over the past year, mostly due to COVID.
Mm-hmm.
I don't blame them for that, but they're just trying to be responsible. But it doesn't have the same ring to it. Anyway, I'm getting off point here. We were having these conversations while we were enjoying fantastic beer and fantastic pizza. And there were some people, there was a man sitting, I think, like to our left. We were at the front of the bar, man to the left. And he's like, you guys are having a really interesting conversation over there. And we're like, oh, well, thanks. And he's like, I don't even know what the fuck video games are, but I'll listen to whatever the hell you're talking about. And
yeah.
Then me and Shane were like, you know what? Let's try and package this and put this out to the masses somehow. Let's just have a podcast. Let's just hang out at your place and record. One, because it's cheaper to hang out at your place and drink beer.
True.
The other is we can just document these conversations and have a good time. And I'm pretty sure that's the long of the short. Shane got a microphone, looked up all the things that we needed to do to put it on a server and upload it to the airwaves. And that's pretty much the beginning of it.
Yeah, no, I think you covered it pretty well. Yeah. I mean, we were just kind of like, well, you know what? We're two, 30 something white guys. So I guess we need a podcast, right? That's
yeah.
But no, I mean, yeah, we got into some pretty in-depth conversations. And I think it was at that point where we both kind of realized that we both had not only kind of a passion, I think, for a lot of like retro games, but also a surprising amount of knowledge about it to where we could, talk at least semi-intelligently about a lot of the history of these things and stuff like that. So yeah, we figured, well, maybe if random dude at the bar thinks that we're interesting enough to eavesdrop on, then maybe some other people would also like to listen. And I guess it turns out we were kind of right.
Yeah, we have more than 10 people listening to this show. So, I mean, that's about 10, I'll say 8 more people than I ever planned on having listening to our show. Because, every once in a while, the parents and family members are going to check in. So
true. Yeah.
Once again, listeners, you are amazing and we love you. Thank you. I don't know if how that sounded. I'm just going to keep moving forward. We do love you, though, listeners. All right. This is once again from Randall. Name a retro game that you love that was formative for you. Oh,
okay. Well, this is an easy one and probably not at all surprising. Diablo, like hands down, like OG Diablo. I mean, Diablo 2 is a big deal for me, but the first one, if we're talking formative games, absolutely Diablo 1. I did not know that games could be as just dark and ominous as it is until I played Diablo. And I think I truly believe that it is almost single-handedly responsible for my aforementioned love of dark fantasy settings and action RPGs. I really don't think that there's any other game besides maybe World of Warcraft that has had such a profound effect on me just as a gamer. It's really shaped a lot of my tastes and kind of what I inevitably end up gravitating to. And like I said, I'm still playing OG Diablo to this day. I mean, if you were hanging out on our Twitch stream recently, I was playing the PS1 port of it. So there you go.
For me, this isn't like I don't so much love the game as much today. I certainly did back then. And mine's going to lean more into the formative and not even within the realm of games. It's just in terms of how I look at things as a whole. And I'm going to go at Mortal Kombat.
Okay.
And the reason for that is it made me realize that games, I mean, not so much like I'm thinking of this process back when this game came out, because it was I was 7 when Mortal Kombat first came out. So I was 8 when the real debate and questions about the game started coming out. But that's when I started realizing even though I couldn't quite articulate it then, that games were a little bit more than just the media that we kind of attributed with them back in up to that point. The question started being raised, are games art? And should art, if it's art, should art be censored? Should art be prevented from getting out to the masses? And what's the extent of free speech? Because there were people that did not want this game, did not want Mortal Kombat to be available on home consoles or generally be available at all, just because they were so insulted by the concepts it was presenting. And of course, back then that was violence, crude vulgarity. And of course, it was like with a lot of other games at the time. You had Night Trap. I don't know if Duke Nukem quite yet. I think it was a little bit before Duke Nukem 3D. But that and Night Trap really spurred a conversation about what should be allowed in a video game. Because, of course, people were thinking video games were kids' toys. But as we all know today, video games are an expression. They're an art form. So I kind of took those lessons learned from those fights and watched people fight the debate of should games be considered art, and should games really avoid a lot of government regulation on what got released out to the public. And that's kind of my perception of kind of what formed me moving forward in terms of when it came to speech and censorship and what should be allowed and what shouldn't be allowed. It's kind of made me view as if anyone's ever trying to hide something from somebody or shut anyone down. I mean, there's probably not an entirely good reason for it. More than likely, if a person, argument, or a group doesn't want something coming to fruition or being pushed out to the masses for them to be able to decide whether or not it's good, or giving them at least the option to say no to it, they're probably the baddies. So I guess that more formed my, I don't want to say political ideology, but I guess that's the best way I can put it. But just the way I kind of view the world and how I view arguments and discussions, and just how to move forward with life and what people should be able to say and do, and what you should be able to do and say with art.
That was a much more insightful and cultured response than mine was. I was just like, I like clicking things and making them go boom and get looped. And you were just like, yes, well, I believe this informed my socio-political stand on, art and whether it's an expression. And
sorry.
No, it's good. It's good. You just went way more highbrow than I did. But it's good.
I saw more of the formative, and I was like, do I want to go with video games, or I want to go with me personally? And so I went the me personally route.
Well, there you go. Okay. Well, and speaking of, I guess, like insightful things, I feel like we're going to move into that with the next question. So this is another one coming from the good old Crab Cake. And he asks, what moment in video gaming would you say was the most emotionally moving for you?
So I have two that I wrote down, and one's the first one, because it's not really gameplay, but it is from a video game, are the short stories in Lost Odyssey for the 360. That entire first disc is just an emotional roller coaster. It took my emotions when I played it, and I was younger, so I don't know if I'd have the same view on it now. It might actually be worse. But it took my emotions, it beat the fuck out of them, and just left them like just completely exhausted by the end of the first disc. And then it just kind of shifted in tone for the remaining three. But the first disc is just an absolute masterpiece of a game in terms of storytelling, in terms of narratives, in terms of extraneous stuff that you can read that really just, they try to gut punch you over and over and over again. I think they do a very, very, very successful job. But in terms of actual gameplay and how a game can make me very emotional, and it didn't even do it intentionally. I think this goes back to more of the games as art. And I kind of said this when we did our interview with Cade Call back when we were on his podcast, Gaming Memories, all these, like a year and a half ago now. Holy shit. The Shadow of the Colossus, the game that truly, I think, bridged the gap for most people who are still on the fence on whether or not games were art. And one of the biggest reasons is that, what happens when you defeat the Colossus, because there's, I think, only 13 of them, and I might have that number wrong. I'm sorry. The premise of the game is you're trying to save your loved one, and in order to do so, you have to slay all the Colossi. And every single time you slay the Colossi, something's not right. Something's off. The music that plays, the way that they fall, the way that they die. And every single time they fall, it gets weirder and more off-putting, and and there's this overwhelming feeling of sadness, and it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse throughout the game, but you have to do it. And it absolutely takes an emotional toll. It took one on me. Just a fantastic, fantastic game. And if you haven't played it, please don't go any spoilers. Please don't look anything up. Just go fucking play it. It is so good. And it's, yeah, I would have to say those. I gave you 2 moments, but in terms of just one of just plot and narrative, and one in just pure gameplay. So I think they're good to separate.
Yeah, for sure. So mine is definitely, like, I immediately knew my answer to this question, and it is, well, frankly, the entirety of this game, but specifically Emil's death in Nier.
Death?
Man, I just fucking lost it when that happened, and I am not ashamed to admit that.
Oh, it was so sad.
I mean, I still actually get a little choked up just thinking about it. But, and like, I know he ends up surviving, right? But that particular moment is just like such an emotional sucker punch, because he has this, like, undeterred optimism in the face of just like everything that you've gone through together. And that kind of makes him like this embodiment of whatever hope might have still been left in the world. And then when he dies, it's like the last bit of that is just extinguished. And it was just like, oh, like there are very few things I think I've experienced in video games that like were that impactful for me. So definitely that one.
Yeah, kind of a bit of a spoiler in that one too. So well, there's that.
Maybe we should put a warning. I don't know. You're listening to a retro game podcast. We did an episode on Nier. What do you want from me?
I do want to throw out an honorable mention to Final Fantasy Type 0. That opener is... I went back and I've watched it more recently, and it's a lot more cheesy than I remember it. But I remember the first time I played it, and God, that opener was fucking rough. Yeah, that was a tough one to watch and go through. Enough about talking about emotional instances. we are going to be more positive here, and this one is from The Masked Llama. And always a pleasure to hear questions from you, Llama. You bring joy to our Discord when I least expect it, so thank you. His question is, which games were you shocked to find that you enjoyed?
So I actually struggled trying to figure out how to answer this question. Because I had an answer in mind, but I didn't want to repeat myself. But honestly, I just had to go back to it. It's kind of Dark Souls again. Like I was truly surprised with how much I just like fell in love with that series, because I absolutely did not think I was going to. I didn't think I would like it at all. And it was like the polar opposite, like in the best way. I would also put like an honorable mention in there of Phantasy Star. I went into that game, kind of prepping for our episode on it, expecting just this like antiquated RPG slog. And I ended up finding a game that I had a hard time putting down. I was genuinely taken aback by how much that game really grabbed me. And that's a good like indicator, right, of like a really engaging game, is like when you're reticent to put it down and you look forward to the next time you get to continue playing it. I feel like we've played through enough games in our lives where we can kind of tell the difference. Like I'm playing something out of some sort of twisted sense of obligation because I need to finish it, or if I just genuinely like playing it. And Phantasy Star, I genuinely enjoyed playing.
Oh, yes. Phantasy Star is fantastic. Thank you, Paul, by the way.
Yes.
I'm going to briefly go over. I'm just going to hit 3 real quick. The first one I want to mention is Candy Crush, because
okay,
I'm serious. I am fucking serious, man. It's one of those games that everyone made fun of, and then I picked it up and I couldn't stop playing it for weeks. So, I mean, if to say Candy Crush is a bad game, you're lying. It's a good game. It's just
but you're not a real gamer.
Yeah, get fucked. It's a game. If you like Tetris, are you not a real gamer? Then stop. The second one I want to mention is Mass Effect, because the first time I played Mass Effect, I immediately put it down. I think I played it for 30 minutes and I was like, this game is jank and I fucking hate it. And I waited, I think, 6 months. And then I kept on seeing people say, no, this game's really good. This game's really good. And, you know, a 2's been announced or something like that. I was like, okay, I'll give it another shot. And I picked it up. And I think I finally understood the battle system, that you have to pause and you have to, you know, direct your team in order to what they're supposed to do. And it all kind of clicked. And it's like, oh, I love this game. And it ended up being it ended up being probably my favorite trilogy ever released in the history of ever. I love the Mass Effect trilogy, and all it's because I just decided to pick it up and give it another chance after absolutely hating it.
So I don't mean to interrupt. I was just gonna say, so basically what that means is Mass Effect is your Dark Souls.
Yes, Mass Effect is my Dark Souls.
Okay, that's fair.
At least Mass Effect 1, because they're all different games.
Right.
And then number 1 is a game that you recommended to me, and I think you'll remember me laughing at you and telling you I would never play a mobile game, especially in this video game series, and anyone who played it could get fucked. And that game is Final Fantasy Record Keeper, which for the longest time was the unofficial game of the Retro Hangover podcast.
That is true.
I did not want anything to do with that game. I thought it was going to be absolute shit, especially after All the Bravest. Listen to our episodes. I talk about it for like 10, 15 episodes I'm playing it.
Something like that. Yeah.
And I even played it beyond when you did and mentioned it. I haven't played it for a while now, but yeah, I was shocked. Absolutely shocked. I was addicted to that game like Coke, and I loved it. But I wouldn't know what it's like to be addicted to Coke. I'm just saying Coke as a reference point. Please don't come after me. Navy, I am clean. I'm not doing drugs yet. Next one is also from Llama. Are there any games that you thought you would enjoy but ended up hating?
So I don't know if I would go so far as to say hate, but there are several games that like on paper are just 100% like my jam. And for whatever reason, I just could not get into them at all. So Axiom Verge actually is a perfect example. It was the first one that came to mind. Like, just as a general statement, I'm totally into Metroidvanias. Like, you could keep making good Metroidvanias until the end of time, and I'd probably still just keep playing all of them. But allegedly, Axiom Verge is a really good Metroidvania. But I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is about it, but I got less than an hour into it and I just bounced so hard off of it. And I have yet to actually give it another shot. I know that I should, but it just, I wouldn't even say it didn't grab me. Like it like aggressively repelled me for some reason. And I can't like articulate exactly why, but definitely that one.
That's too bad, because I really want to play Axiom Verge. I do have to give that a shot because I've heard nothing but great things about it.
Yeah, me too.
So for me, I was in the same position as you. It's like, I don't have a game I hate that I expected to enjoy. So the first thing I wrote down was Super Metroid. Then I moved on. It's like, no, Paper Mario, The 1,000-Year Door. Then I was like, maybe. I mean, they're not bad games. I can't go that route. And then it's like every Zelda game that's not called Majora's Mask.
Jesus.
But then I realized, okay, you know, like those are just like hot, edgy takes, and they don't like, I know they're not bad games. They're just games that I don't fully enjoy. Hot take, hashtag that word. I think earlier this week, I was just thinking about it because there is a game that the boot up screen, like when you boot up and you have to select a save file, that's ingrained in my head.
Okay.
So I'll get to it. So every single time, like I'll just be driving down the road and I'll just go, I'm like, why am I doing this? I don't know why, because I hate this game. And that game is Phantasy Star 2. That game, and it's not like I haven't tried. I have tried on the Sega Genesis. I tried on the Sonic's Ultimate Genesis collection. I tried with. I haven't tried with Sega Ages. I tried again on the new Steam release for the Sega Genesis games collection. I tried right after playing the original Phantasy Star. Just continue the plot. I'm like, I'm going to do this. I'm finally going to buckle down. I understand it's an old game. No, that game's bad. It's just objectively bad, and it is. I hate that game. I hate it with all my soul. I hate it with every single bit of passion. And the worst thing is I know people out there love it, and you're allowed to like bad games. It's fine. I hate Phantasy Star 2. And it's just it's so sad because that song will not leave my mind. It's been haunting me for at least 10 years. 10 years, Shane. 10 years. I can't get that song out of my head. And every time I hear it, I'm like, oh, I like that jingle. I'm going to go play Phantasy Star 2. And then when I get to it, I just get my dick smacked, reminding me how bad of a game it is. And now I'm angry.
And I think the worst thing about that, right, is that it's like an awful follow-up to an amazing game.
Yes, and because I played Phantasy Star, like Shane said, just like him, I loved it. I absolutely adored it. And I didn't play it in the Sega Ages mode, so I didn't have to, I did have to do some grinding. It was a little bit more difficult, but I still enjoyed it in its base form. And when I did the same with the follow-up, it was just, it made me angry. It made me physically ill. I hated it. I hated it. I hated it. I'm sorry. No, I'm not even sorry. I'm not sorry. I hate that game.
Okay. Well, moving on to perhaps a more positive question. Another one from the esteemed Llama. If you could have any one person on your show, who would it be?
Ooh. Well, if you had asked me this 2 years ago, we got that person on our show. We had Derek Buck on our show.
Yes.
Go back and check out the interview for that. I was super excited to have on our show. I loved him on there. I always loved him as the internet personality. And if you are listening to this perchance, Derek, you're always welcome back. I might try and reach out to him again because we did have a fantastic time with him on that episode.
We did.
And he's always welcome. Now, moving forward, I was thinking, do I want to go realistic? Meaning, how realistic is realistic? Do I want to borderline it, or do I want to shoot for the stars? And I thought to myself, I would shoot for the stars. Who would I love to have on this show to talk video games? Who I think would be chill? Who I don't think would be too over the top? And if they were over the top, that it would be deliberate, and they would be playing a character, and they would be in character, and I would just absolutely love them to be on here for that reason. And that is All Elite Wrestling's Kenny Omega. I think.
Of course it is.
That guy is, dude, this is a dude who came out to Megalovania. I think it's Megalovania or Megalomania. The song, whatever Sans' song is from Undertale, and dressed up as Sans on a Halloween episode of AEW. #1 wrestler in the world. And he's a retro gaming nut. So of course, I would love for him to be on the show. That's #1 for me. What about you there, Shane?
Wow. Okay. I don't know what I was expecting, but it wasn't that. So for mine, I would love to have David Brevik on the show. And for those of you who are not a super fucking Diablo nerd, such as myself, he was one of the original members of the Blizzard North team who worked on Diablo and Diablo 2. I mean, Diablo is in a lot of ways his baby. And I've watched him, give I won't say speeches necessarily, but he's had appearances at different conventions and stuff where he's talked about the history and the development cycle that went into Diablo and Diablo 2. And his insight is just so super interesting. And by all accounts, he's a really chill dude too. And he 100% would not fit into the current culture that is at Blizzard these days. So he's probably better off for having moved on elsewhere and to kind of do his own thing. But I would love to, either just pick his brain or really just listen to him. I would just love to just listen to him, just tell stories about the development team and, things that went on in the course of dreaming up what eventually became kind of like the Diablo franchise. So that's my pick.
You said that my pick wasn't where you saw it was going. What did you think? Where do you think I was going to go?
Oh, I don't know. I thought maybe you were going to go with, like a popular Japanese game developer or something like that. I mean, wrestling's not super surprising in hindsight, but I just was not expecting that as an answer.
I think the problem with like Japanese developers is I'd be so embarrassed because I don't know Japanese.
True.
And that if I'm going to interview somebody that that speaks in a foreign language, I would want to interview them in their native language and understand it, so it wouldn't be an awkward conversation. So I couldn't say that'd be my number one just because I don't want to insult them.
That's fair.
Now, if I knew Japanese, I would probably change up my opinion, but yeah, I don't know it. Okay. Now we're on to the Adam questions.
Yeah, you buckle up, everybody. We'll make it through this section together, okay?
Thank you, Adam, from the good, the bad, and the backlog. I can always count on you for a good time. All right. So, Shane.
Yes.
If you had to go gay for a game character, who would it be?
So I actually have a couple of options here.
Ooh, a couple.
Yeah. First thing that came to mind would be Alucard. I feel like I should be more specific because I know it's technically like not a game character, but I'm kind of leaning towards like the Netflix series adaptation of Alucard, but I still feel like that's very much the spirit of the character in general. So,
and he would be down.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've confirmed that.
Yeah.
Also, I wouldn't, maybe not runner up, but somewhere in there, I'd throw Kuja in from FF9.
Okay.
And if we want to have like a real deep cut selection, I'm going to throw Bridget from Guilty Gear in there too.
Ooh, nice.
All right. What about you?
Kirby.
You know what's funny is I actually almost put that too.
And if you're going to say, Chris, that's not fair. Kirby is not human. Or you're disgusting because I think Kirby is a child. Look, Kirby came out in 1992. Kirby is no longer a child. Kirby is almost 30. Okay.
Kirby is of legal age.
He is of legal age. But if I have to pick a human, fine. Bayonetta.
What?
Bayonetta. Look.
Did I miss something here? Like,
here's my justification. I notice how much Adam likes Bayonetta and how much the gay community likes Bayonetta.
Uh-huh.
So I'm thinking if I was gay, I would like Bayonetta more.
This is such a cop-out answer. This is such a cop-out answer. He's like, who would you be gay for? And you're just like, the hot chick.
Look, the gay community apparently loves the Bayonetta series. They love Bayonetta.
I am all up in here being like, yes, the very effeminate vampire. That's what I'm going with. And you pick fucking Bayonetta.
I did pick Kirby as my first.
That's true. Like, if he gives you a blowjob, does he turn into a dick?
Yes. No, because he'll just suck all of you. He'll turn into you.
Okay.
You would cease to exist. You would fall into the endless void that is his stomach.
Oh, so that also kind of fulfills a vor thing too. Okay.
It does.
Several different levels here.
I am playing 6D chess here with Kirby.
I hope you're happy with these questions, Adam.
I hope you're happy with the answers.
Yeah.
His next question. I guess this is your turn to ask.
It is. Yeah. I mean, I feel like this is a pretty straightforward one, but he just straight up asks, have you ever had an STI? So go ahead, Chris.
No, but I have had a couple of close calls. I mean, how long have I been married now officially? Almost 16 years. So it's been 16 years since I was doing the tomfoolery. And back then, I had to have a Q-tip shoved up my urethra. There you go, TMI already. Because there was a close call. And if you don't know, that's how they determine whether or not you have some STIs. So I don't know if they still do that. At least that's what they did back in the day, quote, the day. So you probably I don't know how they do it for women. I can only speak for how they do it for men. They take a Q-tip and they just grab your wang and they just, shove it up there and get a little culture. And thankfully, everything turned out negative. There are some more disgusting stories than that. I will not tell, but I'll just say it did not result in me getting an STI, thankfully. And I will leave that alone. All right. How about you, Shane?
Actually, that's pretty much the same story for me. So fortunately, the answer is no. But back in my, let's say, less discerning days, there were a few close calls. But fortunately, none of those turned out to be anything of consequence. So yeah, that's it.
Sweet.
Well, that was sufficiently awkward, just as I thought it would be. So moving on.
There, as we said in the intro, already uncomfortable. All right. So this next one, which gaming character would you let suffocate you to death with their tits?
Oh, I mean, like, where do I even start with this? There are so many options. Like, it's like a kid in a candy store.
Oh, yeah.
So I think the first one that comes to mind for me is Ningguang from Genshin Impact. Yeah.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I would just be buried in those.
You'd be
things.
motorboating?
Yep. There's a motorboating son of a bitch, like all day, any day.
There you go. But you'd be dying.
It's worth it.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, I look at this question and like immediately think this is going to be pleasurable, right? No, like suffocating to death is a horrible result.
Briefly, perhaps.
I mean, but every woman has tits, so it's not like this isn't an enjoyable affair. It's just, what would your preference be if it was a video game character? It's like, if I'm going to be executed, I'm going to suffer a horrible fate. Who would be the one to carry out the fate? And I guess my biggest video gaming crush have to be Cammy from Street Fighter. Just give me Cammy.
That's fair. She could also crush you with her thighs, I'm sure.
I mean, she could do both at the same time. I mean, if I'm going to suffocate, you might as well make it quick, right?
It's a good point, yes.
The easy out is just Tifa, but I didn't want to just be extremely generic and Tifa for like the 1 millionth time a gamer said that. So, nah, it's Cammy. Even though I don't think she has gigantic knockers, I know that she could give me a quick, painless death while I'm buried in her breast.
Okay. So I just want to say, Adam, I hate you that I have to have these words literally come out of my mouth right now.
Or is it about the things that are about to go into your mouth?
Yeah, well, there's also that. So Adam asks, would you rather lick Bowser's taint or have Peach shit in your mouth? I can't even get through reading that question without laughing.
This one's easy, man. It's the taint.
Really? Okay, why?
Yeah, it's the taint.
Why?
Because it's not shit.
Okay. Is that your whole argument?
Bowser's naked. I don't see a dick on him, do you?
I mean, no.
So where's all that ball sweat going? There is no ball sweat. I'm licking that taint. It probably tastes like lizard. And you know what? I've had crocodile before, and it doesn't taste bad. I've had alligator too.
Okay, so what you're telling me is that Bowser taint tastes like chicken. That's the conclusion you're coming to here, right?
It could taste like chicken.
Okay.
And he has fire breath, so as long as he's breathing down there beforehand, I think it could be actually quite an enjoyable experience. Whereas Peach is a human, and I'd be having to ingest actual human shit.
So I love and hate that we have different answers to this question. All right. So again, I despise the fact that I've been even forced to think thoughts about this consideration, but having put time into it, I feel like I have to go with Peach. I mean, listen, like the bonus is if you get to choose diet beforehand, right? That should help like mitigate some of the damage. And I just feel like, listen, like Bowser, he's a busy guy trying to, run a kingdom. He doesn't seem like the type of lizard that tends to wash very often. I really don't want to even begin imagining like what soiled lizard king taint smells like.
Wait.
What?
Peach is in his castle.
Yes.
Locked up.
Arguably against her will. It's debatable, but
I think that makes it worse.
why is that?
Well, okay. It is canonical that Bowser does let her bathe. That's in Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door. Yes. So, but she, like, the diet is being chose for her by Bowser.
You're okay,
like,
but you're making a lot of assumptions about this. You're saying that
you're making a lot of assumptions. You're saying that you get to choose the diet.
I said it would be a bonus if I did.
Okay.
Yes. I mean, I guess that would also depend entirely on where Peach is located at this particular moment. Like if she's just baking cake back at her castle, I feel like that's a very different scenario.
Peach.
But I feel like also we've put already too much thought into this question. So
way too much thought.
All right. So moving on, I think maybe not the last, because I think he snuck in another one towards the end of our list.
Yes, he did. Shane. This is not the last one from Adam, but it's the last one in this sequence of questions.
Yeah, the gauntlet.
Yes. Which Mario? This one's actually a decent question. It's not too hard. Which Mario power-up would you use in the bedroom?
I'm gonna go with the power balloon from Super Mario World. It's basically the Mario universe equivalent of like a penis pump. So there you go.
Oh.
Also covers like that inflation thing too. You know, you gotta get those demographics.
I would choose the Tanuki suit.
Okay.
If anyone knows anything about Tanuki, you'll know why I'm choosing the Tanuki suit.
Mm.
They're like the Japanese yokai of fertility.
Oh.
Huge balls.
That's true. See, you had this is actually like a well-reasoned, like knowledgeable answer that you gave, and I'm just like, nah, man.
Penis pump
it up. All right. So transitioning out of that debauchery, let's move on to a question from Paul from the Region Free Gamers, and he asks, if you could go back in time and prevent one game series from ever existing, which would it be? And when you return, how much better on a scale of 1 to 10 would our world be without Pokemon?
I guess these are two separate questions because it's not Pokemon. So first, I guess I'll answer the Pokemon question because Pokemon comes out before the game I'd choose would never exist. The answer would be 0. It would not be better without. I said 1 to 10, so I have to give it a 1 because 0 is not part of the scale. Because Pokemon inspired a lot of great games like Dragon Quest Monsters, Yokai Watch, Ni no Kuni, the first one. So the world would not be better without Pokemon, and it saved the Game Boy and reinvigorated the entire portable game market. So no, like what? Liar. I understand his story is a little bit different, but no, Pokemon doesn't need to go. You know what game series needs to go, Shane?
What's that?
The Sims.
I feel like this was a carefully targeted answer.
And let me tell you why it should be The Sims.
Okay.
Because I don't know if we have the same level of microtransactions, at least as early without The Sims, because think about how much DLC The Sims sold. Think about the demographic that DLC sold. Because, I mean, yeah, it started out as expansion passes, and there were a lot of expansion passes, and it showed EA how much money they could make if they just kept pumping more and more and more and more content into their games. Until EA just stopped making games and started making a product that you had to buy piecemeal to get the actual game. So I wish The Sims never existed because I think we would have gotten to a point that we're at now. I mean, we're going to get there eventually one way or another, but it would have been much later.
Okay. No, I think that's a fair answer. I will say, I would just like to point out that I do truly appreciate Paul's just relentless hatred for Pokemon.
He hates Pokemon.
Your conviction, sir, is admirable. So I think mine would probably be Call of Duty. So the original had an excellent single player campaign. I have gone on record and will continue to support that stance that I think the original Call of Duty is an excellent game. And at some point we will be doing an episode about that.
Mm-hmm.
But Honestly, I feel like the world could do without its legacy of kind of being like the dude bro multiplayer shooter. Like, I don't know. I feel like its influence on multiplayer gaming over the past, I guess couple decades now is just, I'm not sure that I would say it's a positive one.
I'm shocked you didn't go with Halo then.
Yeah, well, that had crossed my mind too, actually. But I know that this is subjective, of course. And I personally just have this like partially irrational distaste for Call of Duty just because of like the stereotypes that kind of come along with it, of the type of person that would consider Call of Duty multiplayer to be like their thing. I know I'm probably pissing off some people with that, but I don't know. Like, I would not miss it if it was gone.
No, and I see where you're coming from because Call of Duty certainly crossed my mind. I know there was a lot of games series that crossed my mind: Assassin's Creed, Call of Duty, Battlefield, just a lot of your like Madden, just a lot of your yearly regurgitated series that has come out year after year and don't. They just make marginal improvements on their formula and just push it out there for you to consume.
Right.
But then I realized a lot of those games actually had some really good games in the beginning of their series. And like Call of Duty was really good up until like 2 games after Modern Warfare, which was like their 4th game. So like that was hard for me to say it's got to go because it had a good string of games for a while. The culture definitely became toxic, but I could see why you'd want to get rid of it. But I don't think it would get rid of the fan base. They would just be playing Halo or Battlefield. Like you'd still be sitting with the same fucking problem.
That is true.
Okay, so the next one is also from Paul. And this is actually a question that resulted from our King of Games 2000 special channel that we have for the patrons of both Retro Hangover and Region Free Gamers. This is where they can go there and they can discuss the episodes because they're only out for patrons right now. So someone came with a hot take, and that was Llama. He came out with this really hot take about Diablo 2. And here's the question that Paul asks based off that take. So Shane, this is just for Shane. How does it make you feel to lovingly create a Discord community only to have a bunch of ingrates use that forum to call Diablo 2 a glorified Gauntlet clone?
You come in my house. No. I mean, honestly, they're kind of not wrong. if I'm being really honest with myself, they're not entirely wrong. And listen, at the end of the day, I am willing to and fully recognize that Diablo and pretty much all ARPGs are just shiny Skinner boxes, but I just don't care because I love them. I love the core gameplay loop of most ARPGs. Slaughter a bunch of stuff, find sweet loot, make your character more powerful, rinse and repeat. I'm okay with that. I have no problems with that. And like I said earlier, I will probably play Diablo 1 and 2 until the day I die, and none of you can stop me. So there you have it.
Awesome.
Moving on to our next question. This is going back to Crab Cake. He asks, what is your least popular gaming opinion? This should be spicy.
So people are going to listen to what I say, and they're probably never going to trust a gaming opinion of mine ever again.
All right. Prepare for the butt mad.
Super Mario 3 for the NES isn't that good.
Wow. Okay.
I can tell you why it's not good. Prior to Super Mario Brothers 3, Nintendo had this fun little device in Japan. It was called the Famicom Disk System. And we've talked about this on this show with like specifically in regards to Metroid and the Legend of Zelda. And what that disk system did is that it allowed you to save your game.
What?
You could save the game. Like, I know that's a foreign concept for a lot of those games that came over here, like Kid Icarus and Metroid and Castlevania 2 and the original Castlevania. Games where you either needed a password or couldn't save at all. Even Doki Doki Panic, you could save your game. And Doki Doki Panic is what we call Super Mario Brothers 2. It actually has a really cool saving convention where you have to beat the game with all 4 characters and it saves your data and then you get a different ending. I digress. Super Mario Bros. 3 does not allow you to save your game. It is a very long game. It's about 2.5 hours if you just sat down and played it, and you're playing it casually. It might take you longer than that. So I want you to seriously ask yourself this question, listener, because I'm not talking about the Super Mario All Stars version of Super Mario Bros. 3. That game is fine. That game is a very good game. It's a fantastic game. But you sit down and put Super Mario Bros. 3 in your NES, and you play it. And you are not allowed to use the warp whistles. You are not allowed to use the warp whistles because I'm not accepting that as a reasoning for Super Mario Bros. 3 not being that long and you can just kind of go back to where you were with the warp whistles. No, warp whistles are cheats. They are cheats. I don't care if that was the intention of the developers. It is a cheat for you to get forward. Sit down and play that game from start to finish like it was built to do, and tell me you're having a great time. Tell me you can do it, first of all. Tell me you can do it in a regular afternoon. Even when you were a kid, you could just sit down and do that without having to pick up and do something else or worry about doing something else, without having to leave your NES on all day. Fine. The gameplay's fine. I just, look, it's not incredibly varied to the point where I give a shit about it. You want to play something better? Play Super Mario World. It's there. It's infinitely better. It is so much better. Yeah, Super Mario Bros. 3 is the most overrated video game of all time. By far. There's my spicy, super unpopular gaming opinion.
That is a pretty hot take. So mine, I'm not, I don't know if it's going to match that actually, but Minecraft is grossly overrated. I'm just going to go ahead and put that out there. I feel like everyone and their, little brother seems to accept that Minecraft is just like this fucking amazing game and deserves to be the behemoth of commercial success that it is. But I don't get it. I just don't get it. Like, listen, I'll give it credit, right, where it's due, that it does allow for some pretty amazing creativity. And there are some actual use cases where, it can be used in an educational setting to teach kids about like basics of circuitry and things like that. And that's cool. Like, I will give it that. But I have never understood just the runaway, rampant success of Minecraft. First of all, and I didn't go and bother to like fact check this. I'm running off of like just memory at this point. So somebody can probably tell me I'm wrong, but I'm pretty certain that I recall like reading somewhere that the whole shtick behind this game of like, having blocks construct the entirety of the world, and it's something that you can destruct and move and build and whatever, was ripped from a different game and like never got proper credit. And also it was fucking written in Java to start with, which is trash. So, I mean, that's a nerd argument, but it's still valid. Lyle will at least back me up on that. I don't get it, man. Like kids walking around in like Minecraft Steve t-shirts, like fuck that. Oh my God.
My kids love Minecraft.
Well, I'm very happy for them. I
love it. I get the appeal. I do get the appeal. I understand it's definitely not probably for, I wouldn't want to say you or me because there are people at our age that love it, but with our mentality towards games, no, I completely get you. I can't play that fucking game either. Okay, so our next question is from Dischimera. Hi, Dischimera. Great Twitch channel, by the way, when he does it. He does a really good job, I think. One of our listeners who has their own Twitch channel. I like his Twitch channel.
Yeah, I still need to go check that out. I haven't had an opportunity yet.
What is the best experience you have had with online gaming?
So I have two actually that comes to mind. One was playing with the same guild in WoW for like several years, like continuously. I'm not sure I'll ever get that same experience again, mostly just because I just don't have time to dedicate to something like that I used to. But us like just building these friendships and this community, even though none of us really knew each other or lived close to one another. I will say there was one, I think. Was it one? I think there was one person in my guild who I knew personally from high school, but they also lived like across the country at that point. But everybody else, we got to know each other through the guild and just like raiding together or just questing and just bullshitting in guild chat or on voice in Vent or TeamSpeak, because we were using those back then. Everybody remember Vent? Ventrilo? Yeah.
No, never heard of her.
So that was just a really great experience. It's one of the standout like online multiplayer experiences for me. And the other one is Neverwinter Nights.
The AOL game?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. That one. I fired up my 24 baud fucking dial-up monitor. Just got right in there. But no, it's so I think it was when it originally came out. Yeah, it was. A buddy of mine kind of set up his own custom server, and this was one of the things that made Neverwinter Nights so awesome. Was you could basically be a DM of your own world in the game, and so that's exactly what he did. He was unsurprisingly one of my friends that I played D&D with in real life, and so he set up his own private server. He basically built this whole like world and wrote like quests and shit and like did all of this stuff. And we just got on there and just played through it like it was a D&D campaign. And it was amazing. I don't think I've ever played anything quite like that to this day. So I think those two are my big like standout ones.
So, if I go back like old times, it's really tough for me to choose between like way back in the day between three games. I guess I'm gonna go with StarCraft for like traditional gaming. I was also like honorable mentions to Phantasy Star Online and for the Dreamcast and Warcraft 2. Entirely different experiences, and I would love to talk about those later. But I guess for the sake of brevity, I'll just talk about StarCraft here. Battle.net had been around for a while, but StarCraft, they came out with maps that just weren't for battling. Like people would make action RPGs in these maps on Battle.net. Mm-hmm. They would custom make these maps, and they were incredible little creations that I would stay up till like 2-3 o'clock in the morning playing. I wouldn't even do a traditional battle unless it was like co-op against the computer, because I'm not a very I don't like PvP. Doesn't interest me. I don't like competing against people because I don't like to lose. So I'd rather be cooperative.
That's fair.
I mean, at least I'm honest about it. I don't like being competitive because I know I get overly competitive and I do dumb things when I'm overly competitive. So I like to try and avoid that. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't even necessarily a community, really. It was just you'd log on and you just be playing with complete strangers and be having a great time over the internet. This is back in the like late 90s, early 2000s. Like, sure, there was toxic elements, but it's not like there is today with everyone saying that they're going to fuck your mom or calling you some sort of racial slur. It was a really well put together community. And I really miss those times playing Battle.net on StarCraft back when it was still new. And you get new maps and you see new versions of things. And it was a really wild time and a great time to be a gamer. And I guess today it's way different than it was back then. But Jackbox. Shout outs to the Secret Levels podcast. They have Jackboxes on Jackbox nights on Fridays. Every once in a while where them and members of the community play Jackbox. And that's another thing where you can have a lot of friends, people you personally know, and you're playing Jackbox with them. Of course, you want them to be of the same humor level you are, because I remember playing with Shane and some of his extended family, and that was fun.
It was not the right audience.
No. But yeah, you get the right audience in there, and Jackbox is just an absolute riot. That's the kind of games I think I've evolved into today that I'd like to play online, just because I don't have to have Twitch skills, and it's more, even if I'm not funny, I'm not doing a good job of providing humor, someone is. And you just get to know people a lot better. You get to have conversations and just basic things like that. And it's fun. It's like family game night for absolute perverts and deviants. And there's nothing better than that.
All right. So we jump back to another question from Masked Llama. And he asks, what happened to that Fatal Frame episode I listened to that you don't remember recording and no one else remembers hearing?
Llama, just keep your DMs wide open in February and March. That's what I'm going to say about that.
There you go. I will tell you that it exists in a parallel dimension along with the Bernstein Bears and that movie about Sinbad being a genie.
Yes. It's right there.
Yep.
It's right there. We might find it, and that's why we're asking you to keep your DMs open. All right. This one's a good question, because I think we've talked about this. This was almost a possibility for us doing this for episode 100, but I'm happy we're doing this, of course. What is an episode that you would wish to redo if you had the opportunity?
Yeah, and this one was sent in by Ozzy from RFG.
By Ozzy, yes, of course. I should have said who it's from. I'm sorry, Ozzy.
He's like, oh, fine, yeah.
Don't worry. You know what? As punishment for my misdeeds, we'll bring you on the show next week.
I mean, I think my honest answer is like any of our much earlier ones. I would like to think that our production value and, might I be so bold as to say, professionalism have improved so much that I actually kind of regret covering some of the ones that we covered early on, because I feel like we could do them better justice. And that's partially just like an artist thing, right? Like any creator typically goes back and looks at things that they created, years ago or whatever, and usually thinks it's absolute garbage. And that's just kind of the cycle, right, that you go through. And we're not really any different. But also I would kind of like objectively say that our show is better now than it was then.
I would kind of agree. I would like to keep those episodes in a vault just because our format was so radically different back then. I don't want to go back and like redo those episodes per se, because I think if we took out like the news element of it and the modern gaming news element out of it in terms of how it applied to retro gaming, it would it takes something away from those episodes. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I'm not even talking about those though. I mean, that's way far back. I just mean like when we started kind of having episodes focusing on one game or one topic, like even back then, like some of those I actually wouldn't mind redoing sometime in the future. Like, honestly, it might actually happen and we'll probably just end up calling it a fucking HD remaster or something.
You know what? I was going to go for the same one. I'd say if I had to choose which episode to redo, I would probably say, probably the PlayStation episode.
Yeah.
I think that was the very first one we did when we came back. It's either that one or the Master System one. And, we were just kind of getting, our feet on the ground and trying to decide on a format. And I think by the time we got to the TurboGrafx 16, the episode that we did with Paul from Region Free Gamers, we had a better idea of what we wanted to talk about, even though at that time we weren't extremely structured the same way we are today. And I think that we're the structure that Shane came up with is we're a lot better for that. We just didn't have any of that for quite some time. So yeah, I'd like to go back, and I think episode 20, that was the PlayStation. I kind of like to go back there and put it more in the structure and figure out the best way to tell our experience with the PlayStation, because that back then I'm not sure if we really wanted to do more of a history show or our experiences show and what we wanted to lean more heavy into.
Right.
I think we figured that out now to a point where I think you could get much more of a consistent level of conversation that you've come to expect from us. At least I hope so, that you probably didn't get back then. So, yeah, that's where I go with.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. And, just one last thing about sort of the structure of the show. I think it does help a lot in that it provides us kind of a framework to, kind of hang our conversation on, to the point where hopefully we're not just rambling through like a stream of consciousness, and B, it kind of has a side effect of making our episodes, as we've been noticing in recent weeks, become a little bit longer. But that's just because we have this really good structure in place that allows us to go, I think, deeper into the points that we want to make about the games that we're talking about, which I think is a good thing. I mean, Ashton might not think so. He's the one that has to edit these. But I think the depth of conversation there is definitely a plus.
Oh, certainly.
So Adam asks, instead of Sora, who would you prefer as the final Smash DLC fighter? Wrong answers only.
Huh. Rick James from the Chappelle Show.
That okay, yeah.
He's Rick James, bitch.
Like his special just like whips out a couch.
Yeah. Fuck your couch. Where the 5 fingers say, that'd be his ultimate smash attack, where the 5 fingers say to the face and just slap. And it knocks him out. Automatic insta kill.
Nice. I like it. I will say that I tended to stick more in the solely like video game realm of things, for better or worse. I had a couple different answers for this, but I settled on Mallow from Twilight Princess, the little like toddler who ends up becoming a businessman and who's just like snarky as fuck. I actually love that character, and I just feel like he has the capacity to whoop some serious ass, like if he really wanted to. So that's my pick. Also, I just feel like it would be super humiliating to get just completely beat down by a toddler.
I think that'd be fun. I mean, they do have stuff like that in the game anyway, I think. I mean, Ness and Lucas are like children.
That is
like
true.
10.
That is true.
And like Bowser Jr. and all the Koopalings, you don't know how old they are.
Well, they're also apparently not, Bowser's legitimate children, according to the retconning of Nintendo, which I do not accept, by the way.
If I had to choose, okay, so if it was a video game thing, it was in the realm of video games, it'd be the Daytona USA Hornet from Fighters Megamix.
Wow. Okay.
That's the fighting car where you fight as a car.
Okay.
So yeah, you have to check this out, Shane. You have no idea what I'm talking about. I can tell.
I do not at all.
Okay, so at Daytona USA, like the game Daytona USA, the car that you drive, one of the cars that you select is the Hornet. That's the name of the car.
Right.
So when Sega came out with Fighters Megamix, one of the unlockable characters. So Fighters Megamix is a mix between Virtua Fighter and Fighting Vipers, two 3D games, and the car from Daytona USA, the Hornet, is an unlockable fighter.
Like, does it become like a transformer, or do you literally just fight as a car?
You fight as a car.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
What happens is that the rear wheels drop down and like you don't have actual legs, but if you like make a straight line from the axle to the ground, it's its legs, and then its front wheels are its arms. So punches and kicks are executed with the forward and rear wheels.
Okay. I mean, apparently it's already a fighting game character, so it seems like a sensible transition.
And it's in Sega. So you know what? Nintendo, make it happen. Make Hornet from Daytona USA a selectable fighter into Smash. It's burning its engines into your hearts.
There you go.
And you can make that little flash thing there.
Hashtag Hornet for Smash.
Free Hornet. Okay. So this one's from Lyle. Thank you, Lyle. First or second patron saint. I don't remember which one. It's between you and Ashen. But here we go. So we have established that Shane is the Dick Dragon.
True.
But exactly what kind of dragon? Asian? European? D&D? Chromatic? Metallic? Phallic? What kind?
Well, I feel like that last one is already a foregone conclusion, but
Shane, what do you think it is?
Yeah, so I think if we're talking about D&D dragons, I would have to go with Silver Dragon, since their whole like shtick is they just really like human and elf culture, and so they will often spend a lot of their time like transformed into the shape of a human or an elf, mostly solely for the purpose of indulging in like huge feasts. Like they just are super into human and elf food, and I feel like that speaks to me on a spiritual level. So I would go with Silver Dragon.
I would go with Ass Dragon. He is the dragon ass.
Ooh, yeah.
He is the Dick Dragon ass.
A dog dragon, the Dick Dragon doggo.
Dick Dragon Doggo.
That's right.
Dragon ass.
Just right across your living room carpet.
No, it's a dragon ass.
Yeah.
It's that new disease from the Far East. I wake up with it. I have dragon ass every Monday. It's because I eat the spicy wings.
Follow us for other dad humor jokes. All right. So
probably get us canceled on Twitter for that one.
I mean, what doesn't really?
Yeah, we're not making fun of any communities. At least not. I don't know. Maybe we are.
We've offended the dragon ass community.
Yeah.
So we're getting close to the end of the list, but we've got another one. The last one from the illustrious Crab Cake, and he asks, "Which video game should have never been made?" This is somewhat similar to a previous question, but we'll allow it.
One's a series, and I can take The Sims as itself as a game. So that game should have existed. I came really close to saying Lunar Dragon Song, but no one knows what that game is. So thankfully, that game has been pretty much erased itself due to just its total obscurity, because what that game did to Lunar series is an absolute travesty, and I'm glad no one remembers it. So what game should never have been made? So the game has to be popular, and has to still be relevant in some way. So Final Fantasy X-2. That game sucks. It's a bad game. And because they did that, Final Fantasy 13 got 2 sequels, and they have continued to just milk Final Fantasy, Square Enix, that is, for all of eternity. Because that could have, Final Fantasy X-2 was its own IP. I think it would be a lot more digestible, but they made it this super bubbly. I don't know. I guess it was supposed to appeal to a female audience, and maybe it did. Maybe that's why I don't like it. But I've heard plenty of females that hate that game. I've heard plenty of women that hate that game. They don't like it. So apparently I'm not alone. It's just, there's something wrong with it. There's no reason for it to exist. Also, honorable mention to The Last of Us and The Last of Us 2. Those games should have never existed either. Fuck them. But I'm going with Final Fantasy X-2 as my official answer.
Okay. So I had a couple potential answers for this. I feel like I should just get my honorable mentions out of the way. Let's see. Dead Space 3 can go fuck itself. Also, pretty much any Silent Hill game after The Room. I know the popular answer would be to say after Silent Hill 3, but I actually didn't mind The Room. So
after
it was also the last one by the original Team Silent, for what it's worth. But my real answer to this is going to be Dota 2.
Oh, okay.
It is essentially responsible for the entire MOBA genre, which in turn is responsible for the death of the RTS as a game as we knew them, and the eventual shoehorning of a lot of MOBA style mechanics into other games where it doesn't fucking belong. So also, in case you didn't catch it, I really don't like MOBAs. So Dota 2, yeah, never should have been a thing.
Would you just get rid of the Dota series?
I mean, it's not really a series. It's just fucking 2 of them. But I mean,
that's a series.
Sure. Why not?
The Dota collection.
Oh yeah. I mean, nobody cares about the original Dota. It's gone now. I mean, that was just a mod anyway. So was Dota 2, but you know.
And right before we hit the airwaves, right before we came on, we received another question.
We did.
And this one is from the lovely and intelligent and brilliant Bree Wilson. Shane, I'm pretty sure you have to agree with me on that one.
I believe I am actually legally obligated to, yes.
I think that's literally true. So here's the question from Miss Bree Wilson. So, what is the better character, Mario or Link?
Mario. Man, I actually don't really know. Like my knee-jerk response is to say Link, but mostly that's just because I feel like the popular answer is just going to be Mario without any like reasoning as to why other than his just sheer popularity. But if you really like start thinking about it more, I mean, I just feel like Mario's done a lot more with his life, right? Like, I mean, we could talk about how his incessant simping for like the same princess for like decades probably is not doing him any favors. But that aside, I mean, he is quite the Renaissance man. I mean,
Absolutely.
he's been a tennis star. He's been a go-karting aficionado. I mean, he's a pro golfer. Man, I don't even know. He's an artist. He can paint. Like, he can pretty much do it all. And I mean, what does Link got going for him, really? I mean, he can train you with some crossbows.
He can cook.
He can cook, yes.
He can destroy his weapons
by throwing a few things together in a pot and letting them bounce around for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I feel like Mario is just the more like versatile character.
I would 100% agree. Mario actually has spoken lines. And you know what? Chris Pratt isn't going to be Link anytime soon. So obviously
they're gonna get Vin Diesel to play Link, so he can just be like, yeah,
family. So I mean, like, in all seriousness, yes. I mean, yeah, as serious as this can be anyway. For exactly the same reasons that Shane said. He started as a humble carpenter, and then he became a bad guy to save you from your sins and kidnap Donkey Kong. And then he became a zookeeper, and then he became really good at laying the pipe and became a plumber. And you know what? Like, and that was all within the span of 4 years. 4 years. That's the beginning of his career. Then you're right, Shane. He became a professional go-kart driver. Something Link didn't, achieve until almost 30 years, like 20 years after that.
Yeah.
That's more than 20 years. It took a real long time before Link could jump into a car. Like, he always had that stupid fucking horse. Now, to be true, I've never seen Mario riding a horse. He rides a dinosaur. So,
which I feel like is objectively cooler, though.
Yeah, it is. And that he punches the dinosaur in the head when he wants to get off it. He just doesn't say, "Hey, please stop, horsey." Mario is a boss, and he will sacrifice his dinosaur to get a one-up. Link won't do that. Link doesn't have that moment from was it the Never-Ending Story? He doesn't drag Epona in, a mud pit or a quicksand and just scream his names. Epona! You don't see that. You don't see that from Link. Link doesn't know sacrifice. Mario embraces sacrifice. He sacrifices Yoshi. Mario is a boss. It's Mario.
All right. Well, there you have it. And I think we've officially reached the end of our list of questions submitted by fine listeners just like you. And so, again, I would just like to say thank you to everybody who has made this possible, reaching the episode 100, even though technically, I believe, if you look at our catalog, this is something like, I think 102 or something like that, because we've had some extra episodes in there. We had a two-parter, and then we had a bonus episode that we threw in. So I believe this makes us 102. But, from a completely arbitrary numbering standpoint, this is episode 100. And so therefore, it is very important.
Yes. And once again, thank you everyone for listening for however long that you've been listening, whether this is your 100th or your first episode. We appreciate you for being along for the ride. And as we've said before, as if you've been on our Twitch stream or if you've heard us on other shows or even in the past, like, it just reminds me when we started this thing back up again less than 3 years ago, when guest on the show, Ryan Trainer from Bonsai Chat, reached out to us and said, "Hey, I love your show." That was probably the most exciting moment. I don't want to say in my life, like, not hyperbole, like I have a family, but
it's like I had children, but this is it.
Yeah. But that was an extremely exciting and fulfilling moment to know that just one person out there was listening to our show. because, we were doing this for fun and we didn't know if anyone was listening. It just became something we were doing. But now that we know that there are people out there listening to this and enjoying this and supporting us, getting to episode 100 is quite the goal that we are more than happy to get to for you guys. It used to be a show we were doing it for ourselves, but now we're in a position that we know we have you as an audience and you're getting something out of it. So that sense of providing something that someone enjoys provides a great sense of fulfillment to me. And thank you very much. And I'm sure Shane feels the same way. I know I said me, I meant us, but it does feel that way for me. And thank you, everybody.
No, absolutely not. The only thing I'm concerned with is hitting 100 episodes is where we can start getting considered for syndication. So, our email inbox is open.
We'll put it on we'll just put it in the middle of the Joe Rogan podcast, because I don't know if anyone listens to those things beyond an hour and a half anyway.
Oh, there you go. We can just slip in undetected.
Yep. Yeah, there's on. Wow, he sounds a hell of a lot less stoned and more drunk. Yeah, doing a good shit.
Oh.
All right, so I guess it's time to break this down, Shane, and bring an end to the 100th official episode.
I guess that is true. So, if this is your first time joining us, then hello. You've come in at a most auspicious time. You have 99 some odd other episodes you can go and check out. There's so much content there for you. But we're glad to have you here. And if you're a longtime listener, then of course we are super grateful that you have been sticking around and listening to our dumbasses this far into things. So if you would like to engage with the show beyond simply listening, we give you a few ways that you can do that. And all of those can be found by heading over to our link tree. So you can go to linktree/retro hangover. That is linktr.ee/retro hangover. And you can find our social medias. You can find our Twitch, our YouTube, the Patreon, the merch store, if you would like to support the show in that sort of fashion, as well as, I don't know, probably a couple other things. There's a whole bunch of stuff there. You should go look at it. It's pretty neat. And I guess speaking of that, Chris, would you like to touch on our stream Sundays?
Yes, you could find this link in our link tree, but just in case you don't want to go there, if you go to twitch.tv/retro hangover, as long as someone hasn't stole it due to the leak that just happened, we will be streaming every Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern time. For your pleasure, just go ahead, show up there. We'll be playing something. Shane will be speaking in his very sultry and hunky voice for your entertainment and moistening. So go ahead, show up there, 9 p.m. Eastern time at twitch.tv/retro hangover, and we will be there for your entertainment.
On that point, real quick, somebody today told me that listening to my voice, they said they felt like they were listening to the announcer on a Disney ride, which I feel like is a compliment. I'm going to take it as a compliment, but it's totally caught me off guard.
If their name was Steve, that was probably a compliment.
Well, I suppose with all of that being said, for the 100th time, until next time,
play with your taints are better than shit joysticks.
Shane here with a quick message. The one rule Chris and I have always gone by regarding advertisements is this. It has to be something we use and can personally vouch for. If you know me, you know I love coffee. And Bones Coffee Company has been my go-to for home brewing for quite some time now. Their small batch beans come in an impressive variety of flavors like Mint Invaders from Chocolate Space or Electric Unicorn, which I swear tastes exactly like Fruity Pebbles. And the best part? No added sugar or calories involved, just natural flavors infused right into the beans themselves. Build your own sample pack of 5 4-ounce bags to find out which flavors speak to you, or jump in head first with full 12-ounce bags. They've even got K-Cups. Step up your homebrew game with Bones Coffee by visiting bit.ly/RHPBones. That's bit.ly/RHPBONES.